Hello everyone, my name is Inês Sousa and I'm very pleased to be here, even if remotely, to present research I'm carrying out as part of my PhD, supervised by Professor Elisabete Ferreira at the University of Porto in Portugal. So this work focuses on students' autonomy, voice and their involvement in school life, specifically in school management. We are particularly interested in exploring different forms of students' participation and democratic practices in Portuguese secondary schools, and we focus on secondary schools. This presentation is entitled Autonomy and Students' Voice. It's more of a choir voice that is a synthesis of a student that we interview. So the main aim of our study is to identify and understand how secondary school students in Portugal experience autonomy and democracy within their schools. We want to explore when and how students feel that they are heard and they have the opportunity to participate, to take initiative, and to influence decisions, especially in school management. So our research gives particular attention to the students' own voice and perspectives, looking for moments in which participation is genuinely encouraged and where it is symbolic or restricted. So to understand students' autonomy, we also looked at the political and normative framework to shape Portuguese education. So it is important to analyze the last 5 decades of democratic management in educational policy, considering that we have been living in a democracy in Portugal for 15 years now. We celebrate 50 years last year, and since the constitution of the Portuguese Republic, there has been references to the democratic participation of students as a voice and as an active presence in management bodies and in decision making. Over the years, several key policies and reforms have aimed to support students' engagement, such as the democratic management laws, the citizenship education framework, and the recent policies on curricular flexibility. Currently, students have the possibility to participate and be represented and with the right to vote in the school council as a collegiality body in each school, but also through students' association, general assemblies of students, and for the class delegates. And in some cases, in some schools, even at a municipal level, like municipal youth assemblies, youth councils, it's even in every municipality. To guide our analysis, we use a set of concepts from both Portuguese and international literature. We focus on student autonomy, democratic participation, and democratic school management. Just to provide a theoretical and conceptual framework, when we refer to students' autonomy, which is still little studied in Portugal, there's a lot of talk about schools' autonomy and some about teachers' autonomy, but less about students' autonomy. So autonomy in this perspective is not something individuals simply have, but something that is developed through collective practices and in deeply connect to institutional structures. So we take some experience from authors such as Dewey, who view democracy as a way of life, a way of experience, even if in schools, education. In Portugal, authors like Licínio Lima and Elisabete Ferreira have argued for models of school management that are inclusive, participatory, and that see students as a political author. Participation is understood here not just being present or be consulted about something, but as having real influence over decisions through process like election and not nominations to the bodies, collegiality in a collective that dialogues, debates the decision to be made, and in a participation way in decision making, and participation of all in different ways, more direct, more representative, but have access to participate in the decisions. So our research is based on a mixed method approach, combining both quantitative and qualitative data. On the quantitative side, we conduct a national questionnaire survey with responses from almost 3,500 students in Portuguese public secondary schools. On the qualitative side, we carry out fieldwork in 4 schools from north to south in Portugal, using a variety of methods, such as focus group with students, semi-structured interviews with teachers, with principals of these 4 schools and other stakeholders, and participatory observation in different times, moments of reunion with the students, and so. This presentation shares part of the qualitative analysis of students' views and experience of autonomy and democratic practices in schools. So, bringing some results of our investigation, we identify different forms of participation within schools, which we tried to group it into 4 main types: formal participation, such as through students' council or representation on school boards; informal participation, which happens in everyday interaction, meeting with the school principal or some internal students' movements that come from his ideas and work in schools; and other form with liberty participation, where students actually take part in discussion and decision making, and a consultative more participation, where students are asked for opinions. School principals, for example, look for students to know their opinion, but their voices will not influence the final outcomes. These different types often coexist in the same school, but are not equally valued and supported within schools and by students. Many students feel that their participation is limited to symbolic gestures rather than meaningful involvement. Before addressing the concept of autonomy, as we've been studying, it's important to highlight the plurality of participation experience. We found across the school, the different schools, these 4 schools. So students engage in different ways, depending on context, on school culture, and possibilities and opportunities to create and being created by principals and by the teachers. So participation can be more individual or symbolic, or more collective and transformative. In many cases, it is occasionally and controlled rather than systematic and encouraged by the principal and the teachers. So this diversity of experience shows that participation is not an uniform concept. It is shaped by power relationships, institutional dynamics, and students' own perceptions of whether their involvement matters or will make a real difference in school. So from our analysis, we identified 2 main dimensions of students' autonomy, what we called earned autonomy and granted autonomy. So earned autonomy is developed by students through their own action and active role. Some students describe autonomy as something they build over time in their schools by showing initiative, responsibility, and actively engaging in schools different problems, matters, what they show that is important for them. For example, one student said, I think it is also a bit of an earned autonomy, their words. It's the way we position ourselves regarding schools matters. I feel it is also an active role. So autonomy is not a pre-existing attribute or an individual capacity, but a relational process developed in and through collective decision making. In this context, it becomes an educational goal that is learned and it needs to be practiced and consolidated, not a natural starting point or an innate characteristic of all students in schools. So, however, autonomy is not just individual effort. It is deeply relational and depends on the openness of the institution, the school in this case. That's where granted autonomy comes in, which depends on the willingness of the school leadership to recognize and support students' participation. In many cases, students feel that autonomy only exists when it is allowed for someone, for the principal, for the teachers. Even one student said, if they allow us, it's not really having autonomy, is it? Because we might want to do something different, but many times they don't let us. So these statements may highlight the contradiction between the desire, the earned autonomy that I talk about, and the possibility, the granted autonomy in the real context of their schools, which is subject to a logic of permission. They have to permit that students have this type of autonomy. So, cannot be thought solely as an abstract ideal, it must be exercised in real decision-making contexts. So, this leads us to some key tensions in the exercise of autonomy. Even when participation happens, it is often experienced by students as a privilege, not a right they earned. It is frequently exceptional, depends on individual relationship and not supported by a strong institutional culture of democracy. There are still many hierarchical logic, restrictive dynamics in schools that limit students' autonomy. In some cases, students experience a desire to transgress, to go behind the expected, as bell hooks describe, but they often lack the institutional support to do so. Therefore, promoting real autonomy means questioning and transforming the structures that currently restrict and not just relying on isolated good practices, good examples, good experience, but needs to be in the daily basis. So we are left with some important questions. Do school principals and teachers truly provide opportunities for students' participation and autonomy? Do students recognize and want to seize these opportunities? And above all, does student autonomy and voice make sense in the current school reality? These questions became even more urgent in the face of managerial trends, the growing pressure for performance and competition, and the marketization of education. Against this backdrop, this reality that we live in, we believe it is essential to defend and promote democratic participation, collective action, and humanization of educational practices. And these are not only a pedagogical choice, is really a pedagogic, political commitment that we need to make. So if you would like to read more about our research, we have been publishing several articles that are listed here if you want to see, and you can email me, contact me if you have any question or you would like to exchange some ideas. So I leave this over here, and thank you very much for your attention. And here just the references that we use in this presentation, and I finished. Thank you again.